I wanted to welcome everybody to our session tonight, and thank everybody who joined us last week. We talked with Art and Naya and just answered some of the questions that we get every day as we are getting ready for the big game draw. The rules and information booklet is out on the website, and you can download that in both English and Spanish at this time and start preparing for your hunts. So if you're kind of looking at that and have some basic questions and getting ready to apply, feel free to check out that session. It is on our Facebook page, so you're more than welcome to see it over there. And then continuing through to tonight, we have Jennifer Morgan, who's joining us, and we're going to talk about options for hunter education. And I got a few questions emailed in. This isn't actually a hunter education course, but if you have kiddos or if you yourself are interested in taking hunter education, we're going to tell you all of the ways that you can accomplish that. So as we move forward tonight, if you guys have questions, feel free to pop them into the question and answer box or into the chat here in Zoom. And for those of you that are on Facebook, I will do my best to keep an eye on those questions as well. Last week, it got crazy a number of questions, and which was amazing. We just couldn't quite get to everything, and we'll feed those into some of our upcoming seminars as well. But hopefully tonight we can keep up with those. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Tristana Bickford. I'm the department's communications director based out of Santa Fe. And our guest tonight, Jennifer, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to hop on board with us this evening. And we are myself and Tristana are going to be interacting with you all. Like she mentioned, this does not provide any certification to anybody. We are strictly here to have an open, casual forum of talking about hunter education, mentor youth, some of the and breaking those programs down, because there seems to be quite a bit of some confusion, or folks just don't really understand how some of these programs work and what's available to you. So we're gonna hash all that out and break it all down so you guys understand fully what's available to you, your child, and then how to move forward so you guys can be prepped and ready to go for the application deadline that's coming up. I think that everybody probably already knows by now, but March 16th is the awesome date to put on your calendars. So and reminders. So don't forget about that. But we're gonna break all that stuff down so you guys are well prepared to get whatever it is that you need to be ready to go for that application, that deadline that will be here faster than we know it. So. But my name's Jennifer Morgan. I'm the Hunter Education Coordinator with the department. I've been with the agency now for a couple of decades. So, and it's all mostly been in hunter education. I love this program. It's an awesome program. It's super great to work with the youth, with the families that are so interested in coming on board with hunting, and the new hunters that are out there, the folks that are gaining interest in the outdoors and into hunting and angling. And it's just a very rewarding job to be in. So, but I really welcome this opportunity to be here to talk with you all this evening and kind of flesh all this out about hunter education and what's available to everybody, because we've been receiving a lot of questions now well, we're still COVID, but it's kind of like we're getting back into more normalcy with some in-person stuff now. So with that, what would you like me to begin? There's so much to talk about.
Exactly. One other thing I wanted to mention is that we do have our Spanish translator on the call as well. So if anybody has a question, it would be more comfortable in Spanish, we'll bring Darren into this room and he can help us translate. So please don't hesitate to let us know. It is a learning experience for us, but we will work our way through that should you like to communicate with us in Spanish. So Jennifer, I know you are one of the key players on our hunter education team, but there's several other people and many volunteers across the state that also help us with the hunter education program, right?
Yes, exactly. So it's not just, there's no I in team. There is myself and two other members of our department staff. It's Megan Otero, she's the assistant hunter ed coordinator, and Rosalind Washington, she's our financial specialist. And they make up the primary game and fish staff of our hunter ed team. But then, yes, we have a myriad of volunteer hunter education and bow hunter education instructors out there that if it wasn't for them, we would not be able to offer classes to you all so you can get the certifications that you need. And so hats off and kudos to all those volunteers that are out there that have tirelessly been adapting and being flexible with the whole COVID and going from in-person, huge stop, and then virtual, and then now we're moving back to in-person. So for those of you who are joining us today that have just now found out that we're returning to in-person learning, we are, and we'll break down what options are available to you as we do move forward with in-person classes like we did prior to 2020. So that's really exciting. But yes, thanks again to all of our volunteers who help us offer these classes to the public. So they're a key role, and we couldn't do it without them. So kind of going into that, segueing into the classes, before we even get into that, actually, I would like to just kind of recap as to who needs to have hunter education. A lot of folks have moved either to New Mexico from another state, or maybe you're brand new to hunting and you're really not too sure what's expected of you. And so hunter education via state statute is required for any hunter under the age of 18. And so you notice I didn't really say a minimum age. Some states do have minimum ages, but we do not here. So if your child is old enough to come into class, they can comprehend the material, they can take a final exam, they can complete their homework prior to coming into class, then they are eligible. And so, yes, once you turn 18 here in New Mexico, you are no longer required to have hunter education. But as I will always promote it, I highly recommend hunter education for anybody. We have never had an adult in our classes that have come and told us, well, that was a complete waste of time. We've always had adults, whether they're 18 right out of high school, or their college, or their grandparents bringing somebody into a class. All of them have definitely expressed to us how much they've learned, or, hey, I've forgotten about that. I brought my child into hunter education, and now I'm coming back in with my grandkid, and man, this has been a great refresher, or I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. So there is always something to learn in our classrooms and the courses that we offer. So we highly recommend it for anybody, and especially if you're new. If you're just now kind of getting interested in hunting and you're trying to figure out what it's all about, come take hunter education. It will give you a good, well-rounded platform of, one, we focus on safety. So that's what hunter education's goal is, to produce safe, ethical, and responsible hunters. But of course, we talk about hunter education. It's not just hunter safety. And so there's so much just wrapped up into a hunter education curriculum that I'll get into here in a little bit. But yeah, so if you're under 18, you need to have hunter education before you can apply for the hunts in the draw, or purchase a game hunting license, or game hunting and fishing license combo. So that combo license. And a lot of folks, Tristana, ask me, well, I'm just going to apply for archery hunts. Do I have to have hunter education? And yes, you do. In order to purchase that initial game hunting license, that requires you to have hunter education, even if you do only want to apply for archery only hunts. So that is something a little new that has come up, over the last, I think, 5 years or less, right in that time frame. So especially for those who kind of took a hiatus from hunting and are getting back into it here in New Mexico, that's kind of a new one for some of you guys. So just be aware that archery only hunts, you still need to have hunter education to purchase that initial game hunting license. And then you can, once you have hunter ed, then you can apply for all those archery only hunts. So, and then
once you have hunter education, do you have to retake the course?
Nope. Once you have successfully passed a state's issued hunter education course, you're good for life. And what's really nice is that all 50 states have reciprocity, where we recognize one another's hunter education numbers and certifications. And so, for our neighboring states, a lot of the times we'll have non-residents that will apply for New Mexico tags or buy a license here. And if you have a hunter education certification from Texas, Colorado, Arizona, Maine, Alaska, Canada, Mexico, we recognize all of those certifications. And same applies to them. So if you earned your hunter education here in New Mexico and you have decided that you would also like to take an opportunity to hunt out of state, they will recognize your hunter education number. But I highly recommend just looking into other states' hunter education requirements as far as what kind of proof you need to have and what some of those minimum ages might be in those other states, because every state does have different rules and regulations as it applies to hunter education and age and species requirements and such. So just be aware of that, everything's a little different everywhere else, but we do recognize one another's certifications. So once you got it, it's one and done. So.
Which is great. I know I got mine in Arizona when I was a youth, and I've since got it in both Wyoming and New Mexico throughout my travels and my work experiences. But it's been really nice to have that, never having to wonder, oh, do I have to do it? Do I not have to do it? And it's just done and out of the way. And but like you said earlier, it's always a good refresher. And I'm lucky enough to get help in some hunter education classes once in a while, and I leave every one of them like, oh yeah, I should remember that. Or, oh, I need to go check my first aid kit and make sure that it's stocked up, because I used Band-Aids last year and haven't restocked them yet. Was my knife sharp?
Exactly. And the other thing that I wanted to also point out, since we're still talking about the hunter education regulations, is that some of our older hunters or seasoned veteran hunters that haven't maybe had hunter education and you would like to apply for any hunts on McGregor or Fort Bliss, please note that those military properties require hunter education no matter what age. And so a lot of folks get kind of floored when they have applied and are successful in drawing an oryx hunt or a Barbary sheep or one of those military installation hunts, is that they're going to require that proof of hunter education. So make sure you get that taken care of well in advance so there's no surprises. And then you're scrambling to try to figure out what you need to do right before your hunt. So we always recommend to take a class at the earliest available possible time, and especially now as we inch our way closer to the application deadline, and it's on everybody's front of their mind, is that they're going to start, class is going to start filling very quickly. But I do want to kind of cover the types of classes that are available to you guys, just so you know what your options are and how to go about doing that. So we're going back to our same type of courses that we were offering in person pre-COVID. And so we offer 3 basic courses. I'll start with the in-person. So we have our traditional hunter education courses. So those traditional courses are for students of any age. And one thing I do want to just I want to screen share our hunter education department website here. That way everybody's pretty much familiar with the main Game and Fish website that is available, but a lot of folks don't really realize that, oh, there is a hunter education page. And so on this particular page, it will recap, or after we talk tonight and you're like, well, I remember Jennifer talking about the course options and I don't quite remember what the differences are. You can come to this page at your convenience and be refreshed as to what we're talking about tonight. But off the main Game and Fish website, you go to the education here, you can click on hunter education. It'll take you right to the Hunter Ed homepage. You can bookmark it. That way it's quick reference if you're trying to keep track of classes that might be scheduled in your area. There's a couple of tabs up here that are available to you, and we can dive into those here in just a minute. But a lot of folks are really interested in, well, what type of instructor-led courses are available to me and my family. Courses, basically you can choose whatever course fits you, your child, or your family's needs. You don't have to pick per se one over the other. Any of our options are going to give you the certification that New Mexico requires and other states require to get your hunter education number and that certification. So if you would prefer to take an in-person course, then fantastic. So we're going to stick with that particular option right now, our instructor-led in-person courses. The traditional courses is basically for students of any age. They're typically 2 days, 6 hours-ish a day. And this particular course works very well for younger students for brand new hunters, people who are not familiar with firearms at all, or you're just now getting interested in hunting and you just need to get a really good overall view of hunting and hunter education. So I highly recommend the traditional course for you. All of our courses, you're required to do some homework before you come, and I'll show you that here in a minute, and they're available in a couple different ways. But what the traditional course does is reviews quite a bit of what's in the material. There is some hands-on and some videos associated with that. All of our courses incorporate a final written exam and a firearms handling proficiency. But what's really nice is that we provide all the equipment for you. You do not bring any of your own equipment, and so you just come to us and we'll instruct you and get you familiar through deactivated firearms. Some of our courses, we do tack on a live fire component, where if the instructors have the ability to go to a range, then we will incorporate a live fire component with that. And then you still utilize department equipment on the range with our certified instructors. And that's one thing that I want to point out, is that all of our courses are offered by certified department either volunteer instructors or department staff. And they've all been vetted and certified through us to be able to teach this content and curriculum to the public. And of course, as we've mentioned before, we're talking about firearm safety. So it's hunter education, but we're focusing on how to behave safely, ethically, and responsibly afield while carrying a firearm. And so that's highly emphasized in all of our classes. And so that traditional course does quite a bit more review, and especially for those who are brand new. We also offer our field day hunter education. So this particular course is more accelerated and is about 6 to 8 hours, and is for students 10 years of age and over. And so this particular course I recommend for students who have maybe a little bit of firearms background, maybe has gone out on a trip with somebody and has maybe seen a little bit about hunting, or maybe you're a mentor youth hunter. And we'll get into that here in a little bit, but maybe you're a mentor youth and you need to now have hunter education to continue to purchase a license and hunt. So the field day hunter education is a great option for those individuals. It's very hands-on, not a lot of review, and spend quite a bit of time outside, so that everybody likes to be outside. That's the whole reason why we're taking hunter education, is to be outside. So that's the type of, that's the field day curriculum per se. We're still teaching the same curriculum out of the same booklet. We're just now having the students apply what they've already learned in their homework a whole lot more intensively in that field day component course, and a lot less review. So if you're a kind of person who maybe needs a little bit more review, a little bit more curriculum development on your side, then traditional course would probably be more up your alley. And of course, then I covered the live fire. Any of our courses can have a live fire, but again, it is up to the individual teaching team if they have access to a range. And every so often, we do have a department pellet trailer. And so if that's available and our instructors have the ability to do that, then we have a mobile pellet trailer that brings the live fire experience to you guys in a parking lot. And so that seems to work out really well. So just keep an eye out. So if you do see any of our courses that have that live fire component, just know that you will get to do a little bit of some shooting. But once you get registered, it'll give you the details whether you're going to actually go to a range or what type of class it is. If it's maybe just, if it has live fire, then that's the only ones that actually you get to do some actual shooting on that front. So the next option is, of course, our online course options. Oh, Tristan, I guess before I just jump into that, did you notice if there's any questions that people might have had about the course types when it comes to in-person?
Not yet. Not specifically about those.
Okay, perfect. So, and actually what I'll do before we move into the in-person is I'll go back to the, I kind of alluded to the homework that students need to have to prep themselves. Because what we know that we're dealing with a lot of different varied backgrounds and skill levels. When you're coming to hunter education, we'll have somebody who's maybe more of a seasoned hunter or shooter that comes into class. And then we have somebody who is, man, they've never even handled or touched a firearm before. And maybe the only window they've had into hunting is, hey, I saw it on YouTube once. So what we try to do with the homework is puts everybody on a level playing field. So that way everybody comes into our classroom and they have some basic knowledge, and then we're building on what they gained from their homework. And what's really nice is you can start your homework at any time. So you don't feel like you have to be registered for a class. If you've got a time, and we had a lot of parents reach out to us over the winter break and say, hey, you know, I really want to get my kiddo into hunter education, you know, when they become available, you know, is there something I can do to start having them study? And the answer is yes. And so right here on the course schedule, or how to enroll in a class on the course schedule tab, is the homework. You can download this for free at any time. And it also has the worksheets. So if you've got some downtime and you want to get prepped and ready to go for the class that you might have registered for in February, go ahead and start your homework now. You don't have to print off the whole entire booklet. What's really nice is it's mobile friendly. So if you download it, you can download it to your laptop, your desktop, your tablet, and take it with you and be reading that in the car on the way to somewhere. And so it's super friendly to get the information you need to get yourself prepared for the class. And so every student is required to complete this homework, and then there's a worksheet that goes along with it, and you turn that in when you've registered for an in-person class. And that's normally collected at the very beginning of class. So that's where you can find that homework that you can start at any time. But I'll go back to the main Hunter Ed page here. And a lot of folks have been asking us about the online Hunter Ed options. And of course, when COVID hit, we really weren't given a whole lot of other options other than online. And we did offer some virtual classes to get us through. But a lot of folks decided to do the online Hunter Ed. So online Hunter Ed is for hunters 10 years of age and over. And again, if you get your certification online or you get it in person, it's the same curriculum, it's the same certification. It's just the method in which you were delivered that course is just a little different, but it's all the same information. So don't think, oh, if I take an online course, it's going to be diluted information. The only thing that you are lacking is that hands-on component, but it's literally the same curriculum that focuses on safe, ethical, and responsible hunting behavior. And so we do offer 3 online course options. 2 of them are user pay, and then 1 is free. Again, it doesn't matter which provider that you take the course from, it's all going to give you the same end result. If you pass all the quizzes, you pass the final exam. And so that's the thing, there are quizzes and a final exam. Most of the content on the pages are also timed, so you can't just click to the test and click to the quiz. There is some timing in that, but I think for the most part, most students will complete the course, and it depends on each individual student, but they can complete these online courses on average in about 8 hours or so, depending on, of course, each individual. But you can decide which course you want to take. And what's really nice is they're self-paced. And so if you decide, hey, I'm going to start it tonight, and you only get through chapter 1, well, you log off, and then when you log back on, then you can start right where you left off, you know, the night before, the day before, or maybe you had to take 2 days between it. But it's really nice. Most of these courses, though, you do have to complete it within, I think, 90 days. And so you don't want to get almost all the way through and then forget, and then your time's up. Then you got to start all over. So just be aware that most of these course providers do have a time limit, and it's not indefinite. So you'll want to get that done. But you can decide which course option you would like. And once you get through to the end, it'll wrap it up, and once you're past the final exam, you'll get your hunter education number, and it'll auto load into your department customer account. And that's one thing that I also kind of want to circle back on is a lot of folks ask us, well, how do I get registered for a class? Way back in the day, you used to have to wait in line and try to get to the front of the line to even get a spot in a class. And well, you still got to wait in line, but you don't have to wait in line in the cold anymore. You're waiting in line online to try to get a spot. But you do register for our in-person courses online through the student's customer account. And if you notice, I say the student's customer account, a lot of parents or family members will register their child through their account. And what you've done is registered yourself. So you need to make sure that once you know that you're going to have your child or a family member that's interested and wants to take Hunter Ed, make sure you create their customer account first. And then once you've created that account, you'll actually register them from their own account for whatever course opportunity that you want to sign up for. And we do post all of our Hunter education classes to different places, and plus through social media platforms as well. So be on the lookout on Facebook and for when we do have classes available for registration or that have been scheduled. But what's really nice is you can go to the quick links right here and click on course schedules and how to register. And normally within 24 to 48 hours of a instructor scheduling a class with us, we update this list here. So don't be down if, hey, I live in Chaves County and there's not a class right now. We're just waiting to hear from volunteers to get classes scheduled. And as soon as we do, we'll post it here. We try to keep up to date on if it's full or if it's a new class, but check this regularly because it changes, especially this time of year, very regularly. So I've had people say that they check it multiple times a day. And literally, especially as we get closer to the deadline, you might look at it at 8 in the morning and then go back at 5 that same day, and there might be 4 or 5 more classes on this list. So all I can recommend to you is just be diligent and check this. We try to give everybody enough in advance notice of classes being scheduled, but sometimes, of course, because we rely heavily on volunteers to offer our classes for us, their schedules might open up at the last minute and then they can push out a class, and it might literally be not a lot of notice. So that's why I'm just saying, just be diligent and check this listing regularly, and check your county. That same list is very similar on the customer side. So if we have a class scheduled on the web page, it will also be reflected on the customer system. It will give you a little bit more specifics as to when registration times will open on that particular day. So one thing I want to point out is that for this particular class, in February, registration will open on January 17th. If you want to know the time registration opens, just log into the CIN account and it'll give you the exact time registration will open for that particular opportunity. We do have a lot of folks that will contact us and say, hey, I'm in my customer account, or I'm in my son's customer account and I'm trying to get him registered and it won't let me. So just make sure you look at the registration day and the time. And if it's not quite that day and time yet, then it won't be available yet. It will also give you a countdown counter and it'll say 25 of 25 available. And then sometimes it'll say 0 of 25. So if it says 0 of 25, that means 0 slots are available. But there'll be a blue sign up button next to that class if it is actively open for registration. And I want to just make this clear, is that registration through the customer system is for our in-person courses only. I'll circle back to the online on how to get that. Trisani, do you have a question?
Yeah. Is there a waiting list for the classes?
So no, there is not a waiting list. So basically, the best way is if you get to a class and you notice that it's filled, a lot of the times you can reach out to us and let us know, hey, what are some options available to me? We don't normally pass out volunteer information just because we would like to keep their information private. And a lot of people ask, well, hey, is there a big list of volunteers that I can reach out to try to get on wait lists and such? We don't actively do that, but I do want to give you an insider scoop here is that our volunteers, when we do offer classes, if they're ready to teach to 20, and we do have no-shows. It's not always guaranteed, but we do have no-shows. And so if your child or the student has their customer ID number, has their homework completely done, and is ready to go, and there's no guarantees, and if you sign up or you show up on the day of class and there's any no-shows and you are 100% squared away, ready to go, and if there are seats available, especially during right now, we do have to comply with social distancing. So our class numbers right now are going to be smaller than what we're normally used to, just so we can accommodate safe classroom practices. But if a teaching team can accommodate a no-show spot, then we will do our best to do that. But there's absolutely no guarantees with that. But that's essentially kind of how that works, because we would like to be able to get people in if we can. But that's basically the only way we can really accommodate folks like that. So if you do have specific questions on that, later you can definitely give myself or a member of our Hunter Ed team a call, and we'll try to work that out a little bit better if it seems to be a little unclear on that. But no official wait list, so nothing guaranteed for sure. One of the things too that helps the rest of the Hunter Ed customers out there is if you do sign up for a class and for whatever reason, life happens and you're unable to make it, if you drop that spot, or if you can't make it, you can drop that spot. And so you can log back into your account, you can drop it, and it will automatically open that spot up to somebody else. So that's one thing to be checking on, is if you looked yesterday and it was full, just keep checking, because there are lots of times where spaces will open back up for registration. So just be mindful of that as well. So that's how that registration process works, and kind of what to look for. And if for some reason you're experiencing issues with seeing courses on the customer CIN system and you're not really too sure, please don't hesitate to call us. And one of the little things as well to keep in mind is if we do have registration opening on a specific day and a specific time, classes again are going to start filling quicker and quicker as we approach the application deadline. So I highly recommend signing up for the first available class that you can get into, because again, one of the things that we are running into that's kind of a post-COVID challenge is finding access to facilities right now. And so that is a big struggle for our volunteers and our teaching teams right now, is finding spaces that we used to teach out of that are not available, and these all have to be public spaces. We also have to accommodate for social distancing to make sure that we can maintain the highest level of safety and health for everybody involved. And so a lot of facilities that maybe we used to be able to teach to 40, now we can only have a class size of 20 or 25 to just make sure that environment is safe for everybody. And so classes are going to fill a whole lot quicker than what we were used to as well, just because of the limited capacity in which we have to operate. So do your best to get yourself into the first available class. And I kudos to some of the folks too that are out there that are very dedicated and willing to travel. That's definitely going to be a good option for folks if you do have the ability to travel and you can get into a class that might not be too terribly far away. Make a weekend of it and make a family trip. It's kind of like hunting. It's part of your hunting experience is to get that hunter education. So if you are able to do that and your schedule and everything allows, then that does open up more opportunities for you. But we do understand if you're unable to do that, and if you do see one in your area, try to get into that first available class so you can be ready to go by March 16th.
Yeah. That would be great. And one of the questions that came in, and I know you've touched on it already, but can you talk about the age requirements for the different classes?
You bet. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and go back to my original screen here and go back into the instructor-led courses. So traditional, if you just see a regular Hunter Ed class and that's what you want to register for, that is our traditional class that is for no age requirement. So there's no minimum age set on our traditional courses. If you see a course that says field day, that is for students 10 years of age and over. Okay, so that's the options. And then the online Hunter Ed option, again, that's for students, for hunters 10 years of age and over. And so, so those 10-year-olds and up have a couple different more options available to them. But for what I'm seeing, the bulk of our classes that are being offered right now are those traditional courses. So hopefully there'll be one scheduled in your area. And again, just because you don't see something posted right now doesn't mean we're not going to offer any classes in your area. That has been the biggest reoccurring question right now is that, hey, I live here in Luna County and I don't see anything. And it's like, well, just hold tight. We will probably have some classes. We're just waiting on scheduling. So just keep checking that, keep checking that webpage all the time. And the more you check it, the more current you're going to be on the information and what's being posted.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
So Jennifer, one of the questions that we get quite a bit is on safety. And I know you talked a little bit about social distancing and COVID, but what other safety aspects, and I'm thinking about certifying our volunteers and background checks and the types of firearms we use. Can you talk a little bit about how you and Megan and Rosalind go above and beyond to make sure that safety is addressed in all of our Hunter Ed classes?
Right. So at the department level, you know, at a volunteer level, all of our volunteers, it doesn't matter if they're going to be a Hunter Ed instructor or they're going to just help out on a pond for fishing. They all have to be certified and vetted through the Department of Game and Fish. They do have to go through, our Hunter education instructors have to go through a background check. The other things that we're implementing now is some child safe training and a couple other levels just to ensure that we're doing the best to make sure that all of our environments are appropriate for everybody. And then to become a Hunter education instructor, those individuals have to make an additional commitment of actually going through a certification process. And for those of you who are interested in becoming a volunteer, we would love to have you on board because we're always looking for more volunteers. The process is easy, but there is a certification process that all individuals have to go through in order to actually actively teach our classes. And we have instructors, you know, that have been teaching for, there's a few that have been teaching for 50 years, which is amazing. And we have junior instructors too. And so the minimum age, if there's any youth out there that are interested in really liking hunting and Hunter Ed, and I mean, you can be a junior instructor as well, and it's that is 10. And so so anybody can get involved. You're not too young and you're not too old to become a volunteer. But once we actually have those individuals certified and ready to hit the ground running, obviously we're teaching hunter education, so huge emphasis on firearms handling and safety. The equipment we use in the classroom are deactivated inert firearms, which is super great because lots of law enforcement agencies across New Mexico have donated these firearms. Just recently, Doñana County had donated a whole bunch of firearms for us to deactivate and use. And so hats off to these law enforcement partners that have helped get equipment into our classrooms that we can use as educational resources for our students. But they are deactivated. They can no longer be used at any kind of live fire capacity. And so that's what we use in the classroom. You know, some of the other teaching aids that we have are, you know, we have, and I was talking about a lot of those hands-on activities that we incorporate into our classrooms. So, you know, students can actually get a handle on, you know, what a dummy, or, you know, we use dummy ammunition, but what a shotgun shell feels like, and what a muzzle loader looks like. We have an archery section, so we talk about bow hunting a little bit. And so you get a little bit of a window into that. We talk huge about ethics and responsibility. And so we focus on proper shot placement. What's the right angles? Where's the animal's anatomy, and where should that shot be placed on that animal for, a quick, humane, effective harvest of that animal. And so there's a lot of focus on that. And then what do you do after the shot? How do you properly blood trail an animal? We talk about zones of fire and wildlife management and conservation. I mean, that is hunting, is wildlife conservation, and it is a huge management tool for the Department of Game and Fish. So you as hunters and upcoming hunters are helping the department in wildlife management, being an active participant in that. So we talk about that in our courses as well. And so we talk about proper firearms storage in the home. A lot of parents, and especially with New Mexico, we're really rural in nature in a lot of ways. And a lot of us have firearms in the home. And some of you out there in the audience might just, I'm not really into about hunting, but, I really need to know more about safe firearms handling in my home and storage. So that's covered in our curriculum as well. And so, there's a lot to it. It's like, man, how do you even cover that in a day or two? But we do. And obviously we're not going to teach you all everything there is to know about hunting. I've been hunting for many, many, many years, and I still learn something new every time I go afield. But what we try to do, and we try to accomplish through our courses, is to do the best that we can to make sure that everybody that walks out our classroom doors are as safe and ethical and responsible as we can possibly create through the reading and the homework, and us building on what the students should have learned from that manual, and then in hopefully ensuring that and that's what we totally encourage families to take these courses together, because you're going to be actively hunting together. And so come and take a course together as a family and make that investment to, ensure that everybody in your hunting party is acting safely, ethically, and responsibly. Because that is ultimately the goal, is to ensure that we're continually decreasing our hunting related incidents nationwide. And so that's what hunter education does. It does work. So, but come sign up for a class for that. Even if you're just interested in, firearms, just about firearms, you will learn quite a bit about how to properly handle a firearm safely, parts. We go over nomenclature and all of that kind of stuff too. So it's pretty intensive curriculum if you kind of think about it. So you're definitely going to learn something coming into a hunter education class. And I think we alluded to, Tristana, a little bit, is, parents are like, well, what class should I sign up for? Hey, that's based on your individualistic need and requirement, and your comfort level. And so we do have a variety of age groups in our classrooms. So you adults don't think that you're going to be the only 40-year-old in our classes, because you will not be, I guarantee it. So, and what's really cool is a lot of our adults who have taken our courses and they're in there with the various other age groups. It's almost like you're looked up to say, hey, look at this person's in here with me. And so, yeah, it's for everybody. So.
And I think it's important, parents, your kids, and adults, yourselves and how you learn best. And some people learn very well from taking online courses, and they get as much information versus someone like me that I get a lot more doing it hands-on and, feeling and touching and doing and practicing. And I learn a lot better that way. So you know your strengths and your skills, and so choose the option. If the age range fits, choose the option that works for you best.
Absolutely.
One of the questions that we got before we leave the content stuff, and I appreciate you talking a lot about the safety, because I know that's key in everything that we do. But one of the questions on content is, what is the test structure like?
So the test is a multiple choice, 50 questions, multiple choice. And essentially what it is evaluating this, the student on is the basic concepts in which they've learned from their booklet and the classroom. And so we don't throw any essay questions out there, make anything super tricky. It's all based on the content in which they've already been exposed to. And what's really nice as well is one thing that I want to point out is when an individual registers for a class, there is a spot in there in which if you or your child has any kind of special needs, and what I mean by special needs is if you need an interpreter, maybe your child has a special IEP in school and we need to be aware that we need to read the exam to somebody. What other kind of accommodations can we do to help that individual be as successful as possible in our classes? And so there's a point where when you register, you can let us know that. And that way, if we need to accommodate, anything, then we are aware of that and we can work with our teaching teams to do that. But, circling back to the exam, it's 50 questions, multiple choice. And we do have a firearms handling proficiency as well. And so students are evaluated and tested on how they can safely handle a firearm. And we're just testing them on their safe handling of carries, positions, and fence crossings. And that's all covered in the book too. So the students can actually start practicing that before they even get to class if they so want, just by looking at the pictures on the book. Or I'll plug our YouTube instructional videos too. So if you guys are interested, we have some YouTube instructional videos on how to safely handle a firearm that we did virtually. So you can use that content as well. But those are, and the exams, you have to make a minimum passing score. So it's 70% on the written and 75% on the firearms handling. We bumped that bar up a little bit because that firearms handling is so crucial to safe hunter development. So, and then some of the other safety things as well, Tristan, I want to just touch on real quick because it has been coming up from the public, is that, the proper, what are we doing about COVID? We're ensuring that, again, social distancing is being in place in the classroom. We've got hand washing restroom, for hand washing. We've got hand sanitizer. Masks are required at this point in time. And we're just putting a lot of safety measures in place right now to make sure all surfaces are nice and clean, and that we try to spend as much time outdoors as possible if weather permits. And so we are doing the best that we can to mitigate any of those risks that might be out there to keep the classrooms safe for the public and our instructors as well. So,
and I know you guys are doing a lot with cleaning equipment between each use as well.
Yeah, a lot of hand sanitizer, a lot of disinfectant wipes and everything to make sure everything's nice and safe. So but we do recognize that that isn't a concern. And of course, for those students who maybe not feel quite so comfortable with that, we have the online options. So don't think that you can't get into the draw or you can't buy a license because you can't get into Hunter Ed. Take one of those online Hunter Ed options if you're 10 and over. Don't miss out. Maybe your schedule is really busy. And it's super hard to try to fit an in-person, even though you would love to fit an in-person course, but you're just, life gets busy sometimes with sports and school and jobs, and we totally recognize that. So the online option might be better for you. And so, but again, if, you register for an in-person course and something comes up, just be sure to drop it. That way it opens it up for the next available person. And, that way we can try to get as many folks into a course as we can before that deadline. And but don't think that, oh, I'm an adult and I have to take the online. If you're an adult and you're like Christiana and I, and you want to actually actively be involved in the process, and that's how you retain information, then sign up for an in-person course. I highly recommend that.
And Jennifer, I want to switch gears a little bit because we're getting some questions in the Q&A. Okay. And I think it's a really important part of Hunter education is our volunteers. So how can somebody sign up to be a volunteer? And do you have any instructor workshops planned?
So yes, we have been offering instructor training workshops already. And if you're interested in becoming a volunteer with us, basically you submit your volunteer application. You come to our Hunter Education instructor page, submit your volunteer application and background check right there. You'll click it. And then once you're in there and you create your own little volunteer profile, then you let us know what your interests are. If you're interested in becoming a hunter education or a bow hunter education instructor, maybe you also want to be an off-highway vehicle instructor, or you want to help out at fishing clinics. So that whole platform will enable you to click on where all your interests are with the department. But for specifically, if you're wanting to be a hunter ed instructor, our volunteer program coordinator, Darcy, will reach back out to us saying, hey, this individual is interested in becoming an instructor. We then reach out to you, let you know when and where the next instructor training workshops are going to be. We just had a couple a few weeks ago, and we're working on expanding that schedule here shortly. So again, just be on the lookout for the additional workshop training dates on this particular page. And we'll get you guys certified. The other caveat to that too is if you've never had a New Mexico Hunter Ed course, that's part of your certification process, but you can get it online. The online course will suffice as well. So if you don't have time to sign up for an in-person course, you can take one of our online options to get that. Or if you took it when you're 12 and you're not really too sure where your number is, we can look you up and we can find you. So, but I highly recommend, if you're wanting to give back, if you yourself have enjoyed hunting and enjoy the outdoors, and you have just a little bit of time to give back, you don't even have to give back an entire weekend. A lot of our teaching teams are made up of volunteers that, hey, I can only come in for a couple hours. I'm going to talk about muzzle loading and shot placement, or they're going to help out with the firearms handling. Or maybe you're somebody who doesn't like to get up in front of people, but you can handle, grading papers and exams and checking kiddos in and setting up. And there's a myriad of ways that people can volunteer in a hunter education classroom. So if it's something that you're looking at, you're interested in, you can even reach out to us. All of our contact information is on the bottom of the Hunter Ed page. And we can put that in the chat and post it up on Facebook just to make sure you all have our contact information, because we'd love to hear from you and have you on board if you're wanting to give back. So
absolutely. Yeah. And I know volunteers always take on a ton of stuff. So we definitely appreciate when somebody's willing to give time to hunter education and to any of our department programs. So absolutely.
One of the things too that you and I had actually talked about is, when is the absolutely deadline for me to have hunter education? So if you're taking an in-person course, there is a chance that we might have classes on that very last weekend prior to the deadline, which would be March 12th and 13th. If you're deciding to take one of the online options, I highly recommend having that done at least a couple of days before the application deadline. There's so much traffic on those sites that sometimes your Hunter Ed number, for whatever reason, won't get uploaded. And so don't wait to the last minute is what I'm going to say. Don't wait and try to get it done at noon on the application deadline, because a lot of the times it just doesn't work out very well for the individual. So don't wait, get it done as soon as you can. That way there's not a lot of backlog and traffic on those Hunter Ed sites, because we do experience that quite a bit with too much traffic and overload. So don't wait, get it done early.
And one other question along those, with the online program, I know that there's a little bit of a delay from setting up your customer account so that you can use your CIN to register for hunter education class, but how long does that typically take to resolve?
It doesn't hardly take any time. Each of the course providers has customer support number. You can reach out to them if it's after hours. A lot of folks take the online courses after hours. And so if you need to reach out to them, you can call their toll-free number, and they can take care of any login issues that you might be experiencing on the course provider side. If it's a customer account system with us, then that's obviously something that we need to take care of on our end. But what's really nice is if any of our customers are experiencing issues with the online course, which is pretty rare, they do have a toll-free customer support line, and they're normally well outside the regular business hours. And so some of them have it all the way to 10 o'clock at night and 6 o'clock in the morning. So there's ample customer support to help out. So that's really nice that we have great course providers for that customer support.
Absolutely. And then one other question. I want to talk about one more program.
Yes.
So one question before we jump into our last program are, once you take and pass the hunter education course, is there a minimum age to hunt big and small game in New Mexico?
No. So once you take hunter education, that is like the utmost certification for any hunter, is that you are not restricted to hunt any game species in New Mexico. So unlike our mentor youth, which we're going to talk about here. So once you have hunter ed, you are eligible to hunt any big game species. And technically you are able to hunt on your own, but of course, if you are a minor, I highly recommend that you're hunting with an adult or with somebody else. But yes, there are no additional restrictions on the hunter once you've passed hunter ed, and like what we've said, it's good for life. So it's one and done.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And of course, you hinted at it, but if you're not able to get into a hunter education class, what are your options?
Okay, so if you're not, for whatever reason, able to take advantage of any of our hunter education course options, we do have the Mentor Youth program that is available to residents and non-residents 8 to 17 years of age. This information can also be found on the main Game and Fish website. But what's nice about the Mentor Youth Hunting program is, some students might not quite be ready for hunter education. That exam might be a little intimidating or daunting, or you live in an area where, you just haven't had any classes available, but you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to purchase a license or apply for the draw. So the Mentor Youth program is for you. Especially if you are a new young hunter and you just don't know what hunting's all about, and you're just not 100% committed to the whole process. So register for the Mentor Youth program. Couple of caveats to the Mentor Youth is, for those youth who are 8 and 9 years old, you can register, but you are restricted to small game only. For youth hunters 10 to 17, you can register also for the Mentor Youth, but you are restricted to deer, javelina, pronghorn, turkey, and small game only. So we have a lot of individuals that are really interested in elk hunting here in New Mexico. That is not a qualified species on the Mentor Youth program. And so those are all listed on this page, as well as to what your qualifications are and some of the restrictions. And that's what we were saying, is that once you have hunter ed, you're not restricted to anything, but we do understand there's sometimes, things that don't always work out according to plan. So, so that Mentor Youth program is for first-time hunters. Again, once you've had hunter ed, you're no longer required or qualified for Mentor Youth, because that supersedes Mentor Youth. But to become a Mentor Youth hunter, you do have to take a small 25 question quiz, and you access that from the Mentor Youth page. You need your CIN account before you can take the quiz, because it needs to be able to tie your quiz score and your Mentor Youth number to your customer account. And once you pass the quiz, your Mentor Youth number will automatically upload into your customer account. Don't worry if you are unsuccessful in taking the quiz the first time, or maybe even the second time. You can take it as many times as needed in order to obtain your Mentor Youth number. But basically the quiz is just asking some basic firearms safety questions, ethics and safety. It's nothing really intimidating. It's just giving you, gauging some basic knowledge before you do go afield. The other thing that's new this year, actually that was new last year, is the mentors. They're also required to take a mentor quiz, and that's also accessed here as well. The mentors just need to have this number in their accounts prior to the hunt. So the mentors do not need it to apply for any hunts. A lot of parents think, well, I've got to have this number before I apply my child for the hunt. No, You just need to make sure that before you go afield and you're actually going to be mentoring that youth on that hunt, is that you have that mentor number in your account as well. With that mentor youth hunting opportunity, the youth must be an unaided voice and sight distance from the mentor, and they don't have to share the same licenses. So a lot of parents will ask me, or adults will ask me, well, I want to put in for IBEX and whatever, but I know that my 11-year-old is not ready for that. Do we have to put in for the same hunts? No, that mentor youth hunter can apply for youth only hunts. They can apply for general population hunts, but it just needs to be within those species that are eligible: deer, javelina, pronghorn, turkey, and small game. And don't forget, we do have those special turkey draw opportunities coming up February
9th.
February 9th. February 9th. So don't, if you're interested in getting a youth involved with those special entry turkey permits, make sure that they don't have hunter ed, that at least have their mentor youth to apply for those. But they do have to have, so that's the other thing that people think, is that, can I apply my child for the draw and then retroactively take hunter ed or mentor youth? No, they have to have their hunter ed or their mentor youth prior to applying, or the application will be rejected. So just make sure that you have those criteria taken care of prior to application, so they don't get rejected.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we've covered our whole outline for this evening, but is there anything else that's popped in your head that we need people to know about for hunter education?
Basically, just to kind of summarize is, take a hunter ed class if you haven't. You'll be enlightened for sure. If you've got a kiddo that you're putting into a class and you yourself have never had hunter education, that's one thing that a lot of adults will tell us, is that, I've sat through this 2 other times with my other kids, and I knew I should have taken this because I need to have it now for Colorado. And so others be aware of that. If you do decide to hunt out of state, or you do want to apply for some of the McGregor or Fort Bliss installation hunts, is that it does require hunter education. And so if you're already going to be there, go ahead and sign up. Take it alongside your kiddo. Make that investment of making it a nice family outing by taking hunter education with your family member. Hunting is so much of a family tradition, and this is just part of it. And so if you can take it, great. Or if you decide to take it all online, that's great too. You guys can all have your devices open and take hunter education together as a family online. We all know how busy people's schedules can be, but there's so many different ways that you can take hunter education that should fit your each individual needs and requirements. And at all times, if folks have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to a member of the hunter education team. We are here for you to answer any questions that you might have, to clarify anything that is not clear to you. And we'll do our best to figure out which program is going to work best for yourself and for your child moving forward. Because we want everybody to have a safe, ethical, and responsible experience while afield. And we want to do our best to help foster that.
Absolutely. Yes. Very well said. Thank you, Jennifer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, with that, I'm going to steal the screen share from you and put up dates, because I want everybody to have those in front of them. And this one also appears a little fuzzy for me. Sorry about that. So in our series next, as I mentioned earlier, last week, we talked with Art and Aya with some basic questions and answers. And so you can check that out on our Facebook page, and we'll get it posted to YouTube pretty soon. As this one will also be on our YouTube link if you need to go back and get some more information, or on our YouTube channel here, hopefully this week, if not early next week, I can get that up there. This week on Wednesday, we're going to be talking with Elise, who is the Assistant Chief of Wildlife, and we're going to be talking about the rule setting process. And so the rules are everything that guides the hunt structure, the dates, the harvest limits. There's so much that goes into that. And so we're going to be talking with Elise about how those recommendations are coming up and how you can all get involved in that series or in that rule setting process. We have several rules open this year, so it'll be a great time if you have input. And then next week on the 19th, the draw opens. And so Ross Morgan will be on with us to walk us through how to set up your customer account, how to apply for the draw, how to go through all of the questions and the Bighorn sheep options. And we'll even probably jump into the Hunter Education account and review how you can sign up for Hunter Education class at that time as well. So Jennifer, I want to thank you so much for your time tonight. And thanks to you and Megan and Rosalind. I know you guys are very busy keeping all of the Hunter Education classes going and really busy finding locations that will work during this COVID situation that we're all currently in. So thank you. And thanks to everyone for joining us on here in Zoom and on Facebook tonight.
Real quick, Tristana, there was another item that popped up in the chat. It was, what was the age category again for the Mentor Youth program? So it can be a little confusing. I've thrown a lot of information out to you guys tonight. So even after you guys have had a chance to like digest some of this and you're still not clear, please ask questions. We are here for you. But with the Mentor Youth, again, it is for first-time hunters that are between the ages of 8 and 17. The 8 and 9-year-olds, they're limited to small game only. And then those youth hunters that are 10 to 17, they're eligible to hunt for deer, turkey, javelina, pronghorn, and small game. And you have to actually be of age at the time of application. So if your child is 9 at the time of application, they are not qualified to apply for those species in the Mentor Youth. Okay, so but once you have Hunter Ed, you're not restricted at all on any species. But you do need to have either Mentor Youth or Hunter Ed prior to that application deadline. You can't apply and then take a class over the summer. It doesn't work that way for the draw. So just make sure you have everything done and squared away well in advance of that application deadline. That way it also gives us all enough time too to try to help you if you know, seek help or alternative means if need be, you know, before the deadline. You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad you saw that one, Jennifer. I was watching my outline and I missed that. So I'm glad you noticed that. But
it's team effort.
It is. Well, thank you, everyone. And we will wish you all a good night. So thanks.
Night. Thank you, everybody.